Hi, everyone. It's Nick here from Conservation Careers, and welcome to the podcast. Now, have you ever had an idea that you think is great and wish you'd done something about it? Well, today's guest is making her great idea for helping individuals to take action on a global scale a reality. Now, Megan Crump is Director of Key Conservation, which is seeking to help conservationists gain critical funding and global support through a mobile app that provides real-time updates on day-to-day campaigns. It's in the final stages of development and planned for a global launch early next year. But Key is really set to be a game changer for small conservation organizations and people seeking to share their time, their skills, or their money. In this episode, we talk about the issues that Key is seeking to resolve, and also how Megan has taken her good idea and is turning it into reality. It's a wide-ranging, app-developing, conservation-impacting episode. Enjoy.
Hi, I'm Megan Cromp, and I'm the Director of Key Conservation.
Great. Thanks for joining us, Megan. It's good to have you on the podcast today. So we're here to learn all about Key Conservation.
For having me.
And what you're working on. And Key is this app that's in development that's going to allow people to connect with real-time conservation projects on the ground, share skills, share funds, maybe get involved in person as well. It's really exciting. I know you're kind of in development phase right now. So we're probably like distracting you from other stuff you should be doing. But before we kind of get into like the details of what Key is and how it works, I'd really like to hear about like why you thought there was a need for it. Like what are the problems that you saw that, you know, something like Key could help to solve?
Yes, well, the whole idea for Key Conservation started because I'm a wildlife biologist. And so I was working in different different organizations, different species, and kept running into the same problems. But there was a catalyst day actually when I was working on a sea turtle project in the Caribbean. It was a small project. We were getting paid a stipend, not really a real salary to work on the project, which is pretty true to form with a lot of conservation projects. But we had a sea turtle hotline that people could call with any issues that came up on the island about sea turtles, and then we'd run to the rescue. And during that call, we had a nest that was getting washed out to sea that needed to be relocated. So it was a very urgent request. And when we ran out to our patrol vehicle, the person who left it there before left it pretty much on empty. And we're like, oh, so we got to run back to the house, grab our, the pot of money that we have to pay for all these essentials, and again, run out. And then we realized we were pretty much out. We'd like $3 left to pay for gas. And of course, as any good conservationists would do, you're not going to let that, nest wash out to sea. So we end up using our stipend, which pays for our food, to pay for the gas to get down to the nest. And, the whole time I was driving down there, I was like, this is crazy. There's people all over the world who love sea turtles, who would gladly support this effort for us to get down there. It's $20. It's not that much money. And then they could see that they were the ones who helped save these sea turtles, because they are essentially helping fund making this possible. Yeah. And I was just very frustrated because the funny was, like, when we ran out the door, we're like, grab some t-shirts and we'll sell them on the beach to help us cover the cost so we can, eat dinner. And I was like, this is just so backwards, because on top of that, the nest was actually on a beach that was called like Millionaire's Beach or something really ridiculous, that like, that's not the official name, but that's what, the locals call it, because all the houses along there are just ridiculously beautiful mansions, that are very much frequented by like very rich tourists or celebrities or, rich locals. And we had a little crowd started to form around us while we're, moving these eggs. And people are just fascinated because it's amazing. Obviously you're seeing this in real life, and, they walk these beaches every day, and all of a sudden, hey, there's a nest that's been under there this whole time. And now it needs to be, relocated. But, we had one woman who was like in tears, and she's like, this is just incredible. I've always wanted to see turtles. And she bought some of our t-shirts, and we're like, oh, thank God, but it felt kind of weird, because during that time, you're like, you're selling t-shirts while you're trying to save. And it just felt so backwards, because I'm like, I didn't get into conservation to shrill shirts and try to desperately say. And I just, the project was going on for 25 years, and they were well respected. And I was like, this is just crazy, So that's kind of what kicked off the catalyst for how can we do better, especially for these smaller, medium-sized conservation organizations who are the front line for conservation in some of these most biodiverse critical species areas, but they're not getting that support or that worldwide reach that they need, but they're the people are like so dedicated, and they're dedicating their lives, and they make so many sacrifices. And I was lucky to get a glimpse of that during my time with different organizations. And so that was like, that just stuck with me. And I then I ended up working with another more well-known zoo who was doing a captive breeding program, and they were still hitting similar issues. And I was just like, this is crazy. Like, I'm so frustrated because, we went out and talked to locals, and they didn't even know that the species we were working with even existed in their area. And I was like, there's just such a disconnect between all of this type of stuff, conservation. And I was like talking to my friends, because I was about to start grad school, and I was talking to them, and I was telling them all my frustrations, and they're like, yeah, I'd love to help, but I just don't have any money, And I was like, I get that, because I was poor too, still poor, but whatever. And I said, and they were like, but I could do other things. Like, could I help? Can I volunteer somehow? And I realized, like, okay, there's the money side, but then there's like this whole other side of the conservation that's being neglected. That's skills. Like, people need skills, and that was kind of the beginning of the social media era, when people, that were running these organizations were like, I don't understand social, like, and they'd want to hire an intern. And it's like, well, people need paid, like, there's just this, so yeah. I was like, well, my friends know how to do all this stuff, and they could help with that, and it would make a huge difference to a lot of these organizations. So all these ideas started coming through. And then also the same time with that sea turtle project, we would do hatchling releases. So after we release like that nest, for instance, we would take it back, incubate it in a safe space, and then eventually a couple of days later, we would release those hatchlings once they're ready to go. And we'd put it on Facebook, hey, come down and check out the hatchlings. But if you're visiting that area, like if you're on vacation or traveling, you wouldn't know to look up that organization to even find out that opportunity. Mm-hmm. So I was like, and then we'd talk to people later on and be like, oh, we just did a hatchling release. I'm like, oh, I wish I could have gone to that, and you're like, yeah, I would imagine like I would be the same. Yeah. And so I was like, we need a better way to be able to get to show people like what's happening in real time, in-person events, in-person volunteer opportunities. So you can see all these different experiences start coming together to be like, okay, well, how can we make this into like an incredible platform for conservationists? And so I call Key Conservation the ecosystem for conservationists, because we need that support system. And I think that people think that, oh, you work with animals, your life's amazing, or you do these, I want to be out there and stuff, and it is, and of course, but they don't see is the other side is, and I think a lot of people are starting to realize that now with how the world has been lately, that it's a very hard job to go into sometimes, where it's already a tough position where species are facing extinction and there's so many obstacles. So some days you can feel really downtrodden, mm-hmm. and you need that support. So you can feel kind of isolated and alone. And so if you're in a smaller conservation organization, or even medium-sized one, or even a bigger one, you can say, like, sometimes it feels like, does anyone care? Even though they are. So we just need to find a way to connect the two. Yeah. So anyway, so that's kind of what started this idea, and where we started thinking about how could we do more in a better way. So yeah, I guess I could just go into what it is now. So what we actually end up creating. Well, if you want.
Yeah, I find it really fascinating. So you saw, I guess the conservation sector is dominated by charities, and a lot of those are really small charities, like you say, small or medium sized, but they sort of dominate most of the action that's happening on the ground. And some of them are quite good at connecting with their supporters through social media and other means. And some of them are quite good at raising funds as well through those sorts of means. Mm-hmm. But what you saw is a way of bringing that all together, if I've got this right, and creating like a community of people who want to support and interact, and help lots of different organizations, like a platform to bring that all into one place and help to sort of streamline and make that better. Have I got the sort of the root of it about right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's just a lot of layers to that, so it's like finding people who, if you're interested in a certain species, being able to identify the organizations actually working towards that species, right. Or finding organizations in your backyard. I can't even count how many times I've talked to my own fellow conservationists and be like, do you know the conservation work that's being done in your backyard, and they're so focused on abroad or their own specializations that they don't think, okay, yeah, like I think a lot of us have looked into that more since the pandemic, and you know, being able to support your local conservation and be able to support like indigenous work, you know, like so people who are working in these communities, and so identifying them and how I can support them. So yeah, it's just about, we want to inspire people to say like, okay, I love tigers, but this salamander really needs support, you know, and expand what you think of what's a cute species and what's worth saving, and getting support where it's really needed, and say, you know, by supporting the salamander, you're supporting the protection of this ecosystem, which actually helps support many other species and stuff. So it's just, you know, how can we expand upon that and create like a community where an organization that's working on an issue across the world could find another one that's working on it another place across the world, and connect and have more collaborative opportunities.
Right. So allowing organizations to kind of cross-pollinate too. Yeah.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
And I love this idea of like helping more people to be conservationists too. I always feel like conservationists is like an elite tag that people get paid for it, get to use, and, you know, and held on this like pedestal or whatever. And actually everyone could be a conservationist if you just do some small act to help wildlife, whether that's in your back garden or whatever, and you're allowing more people to do that. Yeah. So to talk us through then,
we have this vision.
We've got this delay. I'm going to be quiet. Go.
No, sorry. I was just going to say we have a vision that someone laying on their couch can see, like, make a difference. Like, you could just be laying there and be like, wow, this is really cool. And then a couple buttons, you know, and then you can watch the story unfold. Like, sometimes that's all it takes. It doesn't have, you don't have to, you know, go crazy, but people that want to get more involved can. So I think that's what's exciting is I feel like now people, they're like, I want to know the details. I want to see what's going on. I don't want to just be told, give $25 a month and then wonder what goes on. I want to be involved. I want to see the bigger issues, and I want to see how I can actually help change the tide of where that's going, you know? So I think people have gotten more involved in activism and just being aware, right? Like, I think that's the biggest part. So a big thing that we're doing through Key is having transparency. So the way the platform works is it has a scrolling live feed that updates as conservation like campaigns are created across the world. So an organization could have a patrol vehicle breakdown and they go, oh crap, you know, we don't have the budget for this. This is a, you know, classic example, but we need to get out there because we're doing patrols for, you know, for different species. They could go onto the platform, click on there and say, you know, we need a new tire, or there's different things they could do. But the way that Key works is there's 3 ways for you to get involved. One, you can give your skills. So we call that skilled impact. So right, for the example, like a mechanic can say, hey, bring it to my shop, I'll help you fix it up. You know, some things that would cost a lot of money now, you know, is very cheap or free potentially. And, you know, you have someone getting involved in a way that needs meaningful to them. You know, that could, this could be anything. Just
on that then, would you have had like mechanics register their skills in the app already, and you could sort of like ideally have connected that need with that local support?
Yeah, and that's what we're working on right now. We're building the skilled impact feature, which is really exciting because it's our most requested feature from the org side and the user side, because when you sign up as a user, you add in your skills that you have. So we have a selection of them. We've gone through and asked people, and we've done it. So I feel like it's finally there where we have most of them covered. But yeah, you can add your skills that you have. So we ask for people to add the professional ones that they are really proficient in.
Yeah.
So it can be anything from a graphic designer to, you know, a lawyer to like a mechanic, like we were saying, to a drone operator. You know, there's literally endless. Like someone like yourself who has podcast experience. Maybe an organization is looking to create a way to connect with the local community through a podcast or whatever. And they'd say, hey, Nick, like, can you help us? You know, or they put a campaign up, you're like, I can help with that. And you sign up and talk to them. Yeah. And there you go. Like, that's something that would take, you've honed this skill for so long. And then this is something that would take them months, years to figure out. And you could come in one afternoon and change the course of their whole organization.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So just when someone signs up, they add the skills that they have. They also add the languages that they speak or that they're proficient in. And so that allows us to be able to connect an organization with the right person. Oh, sorry. And also the location. So, you know, the idea is that if an organization needs somebody, they can say, I need a graphic designer who speaks Portuguese, who's based in, Rio de Janeiro, and they can like find someone. So they're not wasting time. So our whole goal is to make it super efficient, not just for the organization, but the person as well. So yeah.
Amazing. So you've got this kind of skills area where someone has a need, someone has some skills, and you're building this great app to kind of connect those two really quickly and efficiently together. That's great. And we know there's a big audience of people out there who are working in jobs that are unrelated to wildlife conservation, but they want to either switch careers or just be using their skills for more good. And you're creating a platform to achieve that. That's amazing.
Exactly. And it's a great way to dip your toe into conservation, say, is this for me? Or, start working. And I would say, no matter what you do for a living, you can use it for conservation. It's just the fact of life. Like it's pretty much anything. So, I mean, just for example, I was talking to an accountant about, our stuff here at Key, and she's like, oh, I just wish I could just be the one it's like, instead of hearing about all these things that people are doing, I could be a part of it. And I was like, that's exactly what we're building. I was like, you answering these questions is helping me build the platform that we're doing. And I need that. Like, so, and there's so many people that could use those kind of skills. So that's our hope. But yeah, so that's the first feature. That's the first. So using, can request skills. The second one is funding. And what we really wanted to show is that you could select the item that you're going to fund. So you're not just going, cost some money, $500 out of whatever. You can select the actual, like, we need the shovel, we need the medicine, we need, this tire, and that way you can actually see the outcome of what you're, helping fund. And then also, in addition to that funding, I just wanted to point out that we're also making it so you can support a monthly kind of contribution to an organization, because what we found from talking to orgs and also from personal experience, which I told you about the paying for the gas, is that most organizations are severely underfunded. So a lot of times they're in survival mode each month to say, okay, how are we going to find the money to pay for our team? Because that's most important, because they're the ones doing the critical work. And then, it's a struggle. And so we wanted a way to be like, if you're part of, giving to a campaign, you're part of the story, you feel like you're a part of the team. We want people to feel like, I'm invested now. Like, I want to see how this team does. And, they can interact, with the team as well. And so they can be like, I'm going to contribute $25 a month. And the goal is that enough people can feel connected to an organization that they can change the course of the survivable, like how the team is going to survive, and how they can like have a livable wage with dignity to do the work that's necessary to do. And so that's kind of a part of the funding side. But within the campaign, you can choose which, what you want to give to. And then the third way to give is in person. So we're creating it so an organization can make geo-based volunteer opportunities. So when a campaign comes up, if it's in your area, you'll get an alert saying, hey, there's an opportunity for you to help us, with this situation. Like our car is stuck in the mud, we need someone to help us push it out. Or, hey, we have this event, the sea trail hatchling release coming up. And then you can actually get involved and see. So the right people are getting the right requests, because before we'd make different things and people around the world like, I wish I was there. And it's like, we're excited that they're excited. But when you're in a critical situation, you need people who can actually get there, not someone who's like halfway across the world being like, good luck. It's like, and it's well wishes, but it takes time to deal with that. Right. So we're thinking about it from that conservationist side, being like, and from the user, like they can see what the outcome is later. But right now we need the support of someone who can step up in this moment. So those are the three ways, but the most exciting part to me is that after your contribution or has been put to use, the organization will send you a video or photo update showing how you made a difference. So you're actually become a part of the story. You actually can watch this thing unfold in real time, give your support and watch it be put to use, and then what the outcome is. And it's just, to me, exactly what people want, is that transparency of how they know I was the one who helped make this difference. And I think that's really important now.
And that's what people want, isn't it? They want to know that they're having impact. They want to know where their money went and how it was spent, and to build that long-term connection, because it builds sustainability for the charity on the ground. I can see like you're really excited by the idea. Even though you've been working on it and you're in the weeds, working on it day to day, I'm really excited to listening about it as well. Like, what sort of
Thanks.
feedback have you had from others, organizations or potential users? What are the signals out there yet, in the pre-launch phase?
Yeah, we're really lucky. We've had such incredible support from the conservation community. I think the fact that being in conservation myself and understanding some of the issues, and we've met with a lot of conservationists, so it's not like this is just an idea I had and I ran with it. It's like, this is an idea, then I reached out and got the feedback from so many different organizations. So it's, to me, I feel like we're building it together, which is really exciting, because that's what you want. You don't want to be like, I built this thing and it's not beneficial at all to anyone. You want to be like, is this what you need? Is this what you like? We've had around 90 organizations around the world sign up who are ready for like when we launch. So it's exciting to know that they're ready. But in talking to them, we realize that, wow, like they're actually facing a lot more bigger issues than we realized, with being cut off from tourism and being cut off from a lot of their support from zoos. But then also finding out that some organizations are facing like really huge obstacles when it comes to getting funding in the first place. So they're just like, the only way they can get funding is through like a wire transfer, and that not a lot of people know about them, and they have to depend on fiscal sponsorship, which is fine, but it's like, it's hard, right? It's just like, there's a lot of things, and it's always and usually mostly the organizations that are in our most biodiverse areas, which is just most critical spots. And so we're trying to find ways to tackle different issues so we can get them real-time support, or at least in a way that's not making it more difficult, that we're kind of trying to even the playing field. So it's been exciting, and we have a lot of people from the user side, supporter side, we call them, that are really excited too. So I just can't wait, because we've already had incidences where people have reached out and said, I want to give my skills, and connecting organizations and different things like that. Just give you a quick example. Yeah. I used to work over on Santa Catalina Island here off the coast of California. And one of the things that they work on, there's bald eagle research. And one of the biologists there was talking about how every time he goes out and does surveys for these bald eagles, he has to rent a boat, which costs up to like almost $1,000 each time, which means like crazy, right? I don't know why. I never thought like, this is so expensive. And also, it's such cool work. I don't know why you think sometimes, I think this is what the public, or maybe, I do, and maybe public's like, of course, it's just out there. They just do it, right? But it's like, costs a lot of money.
Yeah.
And so if you have to do those surveys to make sure there's the health of the population, just to do the work that you need to do, like that really adds up. I mean, you go out 8 times, almost $10,000. That's a lot of money. And so I was talking about this on one of my on a social post I made, and my friend's like, "Oh, my husband owns a boat company here in Southern California. Like we go to Catalina all the time. We could take him." And I was like, "What?" And it's just that's the kind of stuff where it's like someone comes on, they sign up, they could say, I have skills in boating. I can do this kind of stuff, and then then all of a sudden, and then done. Yeah. Like, to me, that's what keeps me going during all this, because it's just like, it doesn't take much, right? But it can make a huge difference.
Yeah.
So
the economies of scale and the potential out there is exciting. It's enormous. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll see.
We'll see, indeed. Where are you at then? Where are you at in the process of developing and coming to launch? What you're, without any commitments, what your timescales like at the moment? We know it's not easy, and it must be hard work.
It hasn't been easy. We're working on the skilled impact feature right now, so I think that's why I'm so excited about it, because it's like I'm seeing it come to life, and there's nothing more exciting than seeing a vision that we've drawn it out and now it's actually happening. So we're hoping by the end of this month have the first phase of skilled impact done, and then there's 3 phases. So we have a lot of cool features we want to add in, but we're going to test it along the way with our orgs. And so tentatively we're hoping this spring is when we'll be getting it out to the world to actually start using and testing it out. We still have a lot of especially on the funding side, like I'm determined to figure out a way to help these organizations who are not in usually supported countries for banking and stuff. Like, I want to find a way to make it so it's easy for them to get support that they need, like monetary support. Because right now it's such a barrier, and it makes me so angry, because it's like, it's just because the countries and different things, and it's like we need to find a way to help make it more even. And so I just want to figure that out. So I'm hoping we can get that figured out before we launch, but it might be a stages. So if you know anyone in international finance who's passionate about conservation who can help us tackle this issue, because it's never been tackled before, please shout out to help us out.
Get in touch. Absolutely. Yeah. And can I ask, like, what's your like funding model, if you like? How do you hope to sustain the app, into the future?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's something we are we have always said that the app is always going to be 100% free for all conservationists. So that obviously means we have to find a way to fund ourselves. And so the way we have it set up now is that we take on all the work, I guess you could say, to take on the donations. But so we put in a percentage that goes on to every donation. It's optional.
Yep.
So you don't have to pay this optional donation fee to keep. But that will help put money towards what we're doing to help, offset costs. But obviously, in the long run, we need to help support our team because, again, livable wages is important. And so we are thinking about a model where we can actually bring on businesses and corporations to help use their skills and their resources to help conservation organizations and people and stuff like that as well. And then some other things in the works that we'll see how it pans out. But that's kind of our goals right now.
Yeah. Well, good luck. Good luck. I know that you've got a lot on your hands right now, and spring is going to be an ambitious deadline for you guys as well. But yeah, I'm so excited when it comes out. We'll be sharing it widely. Looking forward to seeing where it goes.
Yeah.
We'd like to know a little bit more about you as well, Megan, like while we're chatting.
Sure.
What's your background then? Are you an app developer? You mentioned before you're a wildlife biologist. Like, what's been your career that's led you to where you are right now?
Yes. I have a really weird career, I guess you could say. I definitely didn't see myself becoming an app developer. I guess it came out of necessity. But yeah, I say I'm a wildlife biologist because that's what I went to school for. I went, that's why I spent my first part of my early career doing. I've worked with many different species: bears, wolves, sea turtles, critically endangered, extinct in the wild birds, captive breeding programs, did like a lot of invasive plant stuff, natural resource management. I worked in the park service. I was a park ranger in Yellowstone, and worked in Yosemite, and spent a lot of time in different places in Caribbean. And so, I just really have always been passionate about critically endangered species and captive breeding and release. So it's always been my passion, and I think it's always lost causes, I guess, they're not lost causes, I'm always believing in getting them there. But so when I started thinking about I was in grad school, and then I started realizing I have to go for this. And so I took a course on learning how to do UX design. So I taught myself to become a UX designer.
Wow.
Which I look back at some of my first designs and I was like, gross. These are horrible. But that's life, right? And I always think that's what makes me so passionate about just getting people involved in conservation, because it's you have to start somewhere, right? That's what you're with the conservation careers. It's it doesn't matter where you start. It's about being determined to keep moving forward and knowing, figuring out what you want. So, and not being deterred, because it's it is tough. And I never thought I'd be here. So I dove right into conservation tech, and I found a really amazing community through Conservation X Labs and Wild Labs. And I was able to start connecting with people who are doing other things. And I spent a good year and a half just fleshing out the idea for Key, because I was working. And so at nighttime, I'd be thinking about ideas, and I downloaded a bunch of apps. I just took the parts that I like, and I call Key my Frankenstein baby, because all the things I thought were amazing and things I loved. And then I took the feedback from people and created this. And then I think that was the biggest part, is how do I go from here? Where do I hire a developer? Do I learn to develop? I don't, and I just lucked out, and I found the people who really supported our work and got us the foot in the door. And then you just kind of have to go for it, and just telling people our idea. I don't know. I just kind of ended up in this position where I just had to do it. I went to bed every night thinking about it. I woke up every day thinking about it. And I feel like once you do that, you kind of have to go for it. But I took a very conscious direction moving away from the field. And I took a job at a startup here in San Diego, and I learned about app development and onboarding and how they interact with customers. And it was brutal because I remember sitting in his office, and I just came from living in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. I was working in the field every day, or working in nature. And I was like, it's right there, to this, concrete box in the middle of a city, which San Diego is beautiful, but the box wasn't pretty. But the people are amazing. And I said to myself, like, you have, if you're going to do this, you got to do it. So I just dedicated myself to learning, and then I decided after that to go full in, and here we are. So
if there's people out there that have their own ideas that they're excited about, what would you share about, or what would be your advice to them in terms of what you've learned from your journey?
I think sharing your idea with people is important. So getting feedback, making sure it's like, because it could be good, but he had so many different iterations, and so many people helped me think from different perspectives, right? Like when I first moved to San Diego, I went to San Diego Startup Week, and I went and pitched Key to business people, which was hilarious because, they're like, what, but just their feedback alone from a totally different perspective made me think, okay, like if I'm trying to reach people outside of conservation, because I was such a conservationist, I was just like, that's my world. I need to talk to people outside and understand, and that really made me be like, okay, like I need to talk to everyone. And so that's good. But then also finding people who you admire, like mentors, finding people that you are like, wow, I really admire their work. Like, and contacting them. I'm really lucky that I was able to reach out to these people, and they embraced me, and they were able to say, I believe in you, or, this is good. But they just gave me the time of day. And I kind of stick with this motto of like 8 seconds of like bravery can change your life, right? So just like go for it. Like, what's the worst that could happen? They can say no or whatever. But I think if you're coming to someone with a sincere idea, or you're coming and being bold, but knowing when the right time is to do that, making sure you do the work ahead of time, you flesh out your idea, talk to other people, find people who are working in that space, and making sure it's not been done already, and really doing that due diligence. So if someone's working on something similar, talking to them, because I think that's a big problem in conservation, is like we need to make sure we're working together and not doing the same thing silos. So just going for it. Like, what's the worst that can happen?
I love that. And I love the sort of the bravery, I think, that you've kind of shown, like going to go and talk to science leaders or business leaders, and the 8-second rule. I think that means so much. Where do you see yourself in 5 years time or 10 years time? Where do you hope you will be and Key will be, in that sort of time scale?
I would love to be in a position where we are helping organizations have the full support they need to run their teams, so they can think about the long-term goals, and being able for them to not be in survival mode, because I think it's so critical that we're stepping up for these organizations in that way. I love to create like more sustainable models for them. So working with them to develop bigger ideas, because I guarantee you that many of them go, I wish we could do this. I just don't have the bandwidth to expand upon what is possible, and for us to be able to support them in that venture, those ventures. And then like tapping into the global scale of how we can and tackle issues, like a group think tank. Like, how cool would it be if an organization had some ideas, or someone had an idea to help offset, and then we can work together to make these things possible. I don't know. I think there's just so many possibilities with transparency that we can do with like businesses and organizations as well, and local communities, and from politics and all that stuff. If people can understand what's going on, they can take action, right? But yeah, I think there's a lot of different things, but I really like to be able to share the information that we're building from Key, because if you think about the information that we could collect and how people want to get involved and what they want to do, that could really be helpful to help an organization make management plans and make decisions about how they're doing outreach and how things are coming through. I think there's a lot of things that that we hope to do, but a lot of things that have to happen first.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be exciting to see where things go. And I think what's going to be really nice is to see the stories that come out of Key, you know, when you launch and hear about what's happened on the ground and has been connected to people out there who have helped, volunteer time, money, skills, however people have got involved. And I think it's amazing, and it'll be really interesting to see how this develops. It's a great idea.
Thank you.
As we sort of wrap up the discussion really towards the end of the podcast, we usually ask a question or two, just like, you know, more broad questions to kind of hear about what you think and care about, really, I guess, within the kind of conservation arena. And one I enjoy asking is if we could sort of make you a conservation czar for the day, you know, and enact a new law that would make a big difference on this planet of ours. Like, what thing would you? I can see you rolling your eyes, going, "Oh no." what might your global decree be?
To make anyone in the world do, or just conservation?
As you wish. But to try and have a positive impact on wildlife.
Well, geez. I think it's like taking a day in someone else's shoes, right? Like, I just wish everyone could I think the world would be such a bigger, better place. It's like, you know, people that go above the earth and they say, wow, I look down at earth and it's just, I have to do something because it's amazing, right? And I feel like that would be similar to what I would love for everyone to get an experience in the field, to be up close and actually feel that way. And I think that's what we're hoping to do with Key, like to feel that feeling as close as you possibly can. So if everyone could have like an experience that connects you to a moment, I think that would stick with people, and that would change the course of a lot of things that are happening in the world. But I think I don't know if that'd be out of the bounds of my power reach for. You
can do as you wish. So a compulsory day in nature per year. I think that's great.
But something epic that's like, wow, this is sticking with me. You know,
right? Like a life-changing, immersive experience.
Yeah, that would be. And I don't think it takes a lot, right? You know, we have friends, or I met someone recently who has never bbeen to a national park and has never been outside into like a reserve. And I was like, wow, they've grown up in the city. They've never really taken time. They go to, you know, they travel to cities to go out. And it's like, you know, we're planning their first adventure. And I think it's going to change their whole, and I just, you know, that's just it. As a conservationist, I'm sure a lot of people listening to this, they can't even imagine that, right? Like, because it's like, we love these things and we love animals. And I've met people who are like, I don't care about animals. It's like, what? Like, and you have to realize, like, those people they exist and they're out there. And how can we find a way to make them feel like this is connected? And if it means them using their skills or finding a way that's meaningful to them, we have to find ways to connect them to things that matter, you know, and on their level, right?
Yeah. And if you don't know about something, you can't care about it. So like, get out there and enjoy it and experience it.
Exactly. That's why I try to put that salamander in front of people.
There you go. Oh, well, Megan, thank you so much for jumping on the podcast and sharing your journey so far with us and everything that's going on. I wish you all the very best. If people want to find out more about Key and the work and what's coming down the road and get involved, where should we send them?
To our website, keyconservation.org. We'd love to have you. Always open to getting emails from everybody, and you know, however you want to get involved, we're open to it. So it'd be great to have you. And thank you so much for having me. It's been always a pleasure being here with you. And thank you so much.
Likewise. Thank you, Megan. All the best. Good luck.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, I hope you enjoyed that, everyone. If you did, then please do hit the subscribe button to get notified of new episodes as they drop. And also, please give us a rating or a review, because it really helps us to get in front of more people. Now, if you want our help to get clear and get started and get hired as a professional conservationist, I recommend you enroll in our free online training program, exploring how to get a conservation job. So if you're a student, a job seeker, or a career switcher, you'll learn the golden rule about how to get started, the key mistakes to avoid, and also we'll answer your biggest questions. You can check that out at conservation-careers.com/free. See you soon.